Well, this aggressive confrontation was posted this week on YouTube, and it sparked an investigation into a deputy U.S. Marshal. You can see he approaches that woman. She's filming officers on a street in California, grabs her cell phone, and appears to smash it on the ground. An unsettling incident for the woman involved, and she spoke about what happened.
He grabbed it away from me. We were struggling, and he yanked it from me. He dropped it on the ground. He stomped on it many times, kicked it, and kicked my bottle, broke it. And then he said, "There's your phone."
Doing anything wrong?
I don't think so. This is my right.
So what are your rights, particularly in Canada, to film police when you're in a public place? Joining us now with more on that is criminal defense lawyer Michael Lacey. And so if somebody came to you, Michael, and said, there's an incident happening in front of me in a public area and I want to take pictures of it with my cell phone, what do you tell that person?
Tell that person they're entitled to take photos of what's going on. They're entitled to take video of what's going on. The only prohibition in Canada is that you can't obstruct the officers during the execution of their duties. And your viewers can see for themselves when they saw the video, all this woman was doing was videotaping these officers at a distance. If that happened in Canada, there'd be absolutely nothing wrong with that, Ian.
What would obstruction look like by contrast with what we're seeing now?
Well, you know, if you were sort of in the way of the officers, if you're not so much the videotaping, but if you were taunting the person who was being arrested or was being dealt with by the officers in a way that created a risk for the officers or some way interfered with their ability to carry out their job, you know, that can lead to a charge of obstructing a peace officer during the lawful execution of their duties. But what we have seen in recent weeks, months, years now even, is that the video is ubiquitous. It's on most smartphones, and it becomes an important tool actually for holding police accountable for their actions. So, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say no question about that. And so as a practical matter then, if somebody is on a street in Toronto, Vancouver, wherever else, they're not obstructing, they're standing back, they're taking pictures of what's going on, and a police officer approaches them and says, hey, what are you doing? I want you to stop. What should that citizen say to the police officer?
Well, you know, it's always a very difficult question to answer because there's dynamics, there may be nuance to a question like that. I mean, you have to decide in those moments where a peace officer asks you to stop what you're doing, whether or not the officer is genuinely asking you to stop because you're impeding their lawful investigation, or whether he's asking you to stop for some other reason to protect the police conduct. It's a difficult thing to give an absolute answer for, but I think people have to be guided by some common sense. You don't want to create conflict unnecessarily with a police officer. But at the same time, if you see something happening and you're at a safe distance from where the officers are, you're not interfering with what they're doing, you're absolutely entitled to videotape that contact.
Well, that balance that you mentioned between the legitimate concerns of a police officer to control the environment there, and on the other hand, the legitimate rights of people to film it, you know, that balance, as you say, in the instant, that's what people will have to weigh. Michael Lacey, thank you very much for speaking to us about this.
Thank you, Ian.